As a physician and as a public health professional, two things are more critical to my day-to-day work than anything else: the availability of accurate, evidence-based scientific information, and trust. And as you can imagine, misinformation erodes the presence of both.
Our teams are on the front lines of battling misinformation and disinformation. And this is especially important during the pandemic, as misinformation is fueling fear, it's fomenting discord, and it's costing human lives.
Well, misinformation is a problem in any world, but especially in the policymaking realm, where you're making decisions based on fact. And you're also working with an electorate, people, constituents, residents, who necessarily, and thank goodness, have different viewpoints, which is great, which is when we all come together, that's what we call government. But when ideally people come not fully informed, because I don't expect that of anyone, but I do, when they see their piece of the pie, their viewpoint is backed up with, is factually based, and then they're absolutely express their views on this topic, that's when we get the best public policy we can get.
It's a problem because all of us are scared. Our lives have been turned upside down in the last 18 months. But even in the last 15 years, technology has changed so much. The world has changed. People are frightened about their economic security. They're frightened about their future. They're frightened about the planet. And because of that, we're all like this. And when we're like this, we're not able to be as critical as we normally would about the information we receive.
In these times of pandemic and racial reckoning and political polarization, making sure people have access to news that they find trustworthy and reliable and relevant is more important than ever.
In my work and in my life, I've been very lucky to be a person who learns every day. And it's important for me to be able to trust the sources of information, not because they're right or because I need to change my views to align with them, but because it gives me an opportunity to learn and to shape my life and to shape my life's decisions. And so I want that information and the sources of information to be fair and open, and to allow me to use that information to make decisions that are best for me, are best for my community, and for someone who cares deeply about the world around me. All of these decisions that affect my role in the world in which I live. And so I worry about misinformation. I worry about the people who are so determined to be right that they will distort another view, they will dismiss another view, and shape their own truth as if it were the only truth.
Our country's founders took great pains to ensure a free press because they knew that a democracy cannot function with bad information. Journalists seek to tell the truth. Not that we always get it right or that we don't have bad actors among us, but when we follow time-tested best practices and ethics, we get it right far more often than we don't. The system works. Until now, the 21st century forms of deception and disinformation have worked so successfully. We face a reality wherein millions, against all evidence and reason, believe we can't even hold a proper election. And as we saw on January 6th, thousands have become radicalized by lies.
When you consider the implications of an and misinformed community, ensuring access to trusted information is a public good, like clean water, like healthcare, food, and education. And we need to invest in local journalism as foundational institutions to the health of our communities and the strength of our democracy. As companies consider the important factors of locating operations, retaining talent, in addition to the available workforce, the quality of healthcare and education and recreational opportunities, they should also consider the local news ecosystem and what role they may play in supporting it. And on the individual level, Colorado is making some commitments, like introducing media literacy resources to schools. And given the consequence of misinformation that we have and are experiencing almost in real time, elevating media literacy in our core curriculum could be an even higher priority. In the meantime, we'll do everything we can to fill the void with information you can trust, because facts save lives.
So how do we solve this? How do we move from misinformation between those who hope to give health care to the population and the population receiving it? The answer, perhaps simply enough, is relationships. Relationships over time are able to help rebuild the trust that misinformation erodes. And as that trust is rebuilt, it is possible to talk to people about the information they're receiving, where it's coming from, the quality of that information, and a whole range of things to help them move back to a place where they are working hard to take care of their health using the best information possible. It's not an easy solution, it's not a quick solution, but it is by far the best solution we have.
But one thing that I wish we did more of was talk to one another about the damaging harms that are being caused by misinformation around health, democracy, the way that we think and perceive each other. Because I think we have this frivolous idea that misinformation is just something on Facebook. It doesn't really matter. It's that thing that you saw, it went viral, but the next day we moved on. But what's happening is every time this takes place, it's like a drip, 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 a continuous drip. Any one of those drips might not seem a big deal, but collectively, those drips of water are dripping onto the rock of society, and it's drilling a hole. It's shattering the rock, the foundation of society. So rather than people saying, whatever, it's that thing that Uncle Bob sent on email, we can just ignore him, or yeah, it's just, it's just Sally, she's doing her usual stuff on Facebook. We need to say, the information we share, the information we consume, the information we take seriously, the information we use to make decisions about our lives, it matters. And it matters that we seek out accurate sources and we talk to one another about the harm damaging misinformation can cause. And if all of us did that, we'd be in a better situation than we are in right now.
Now our work is to figure out how to combat that misinformation. And we have, in my opinion, again, this may not surprise you, we have at our fingertips a big part of the solution. And that is an ecosystem of trustworthy news outlets, places where people can get fact-based information. Now our work is to figure out how to make those news organizations, both the existing and the emerging, strong enough, sustainable, reliable, and trustworthy to serve the public that so desperately needs to be served.
I fear the most about the polarization that kind of misinformation creates in our world, and the distrust amongst us that I can only be right if you are wrong. And that doesn't help us as a society, as human beings, get to solutions, get to addressing and tackling the challenges that we all share. We may have different ways to approach it, and we may have different conclusions, but to really get the best out of all of us, we need to be able to be honest and open and rely on what we're sharing one to the other, and not a sort of zero-sum game where I can only be right if you're wrong. And so I do hope that what we're able to do at the Institute and in my work in the city and beyond is to have open and honest and authentic conversations that give room for some different views and hopefully space for all of us to grow to the solutions that we desperately need in our world.